The salvage ship cut through the darkness of space like a knife. Captain Taiwan sat in his chair, watching the stars drift past the window. His crew had been searching for 3 weeks now, following a strange signal that came from nowhere. Most signals in deep space were just noise, broken equipment sending out last gasps before dying forever. But this one was different. This one repeated every 6 hours, precise and clear. "Captain, I'm picking it up again," said Wu Jin from the control station. The young engineer was barely 25, but he knew his equipment better than anyone Taiwan had ever worked with. "It's coming from coordinates that match the old records." The eternal rest. Taiwan felt his chest tighten. Everyone knew the story of the eternal rest. 300 years ago, Earth sent out its first colony ship, packed with 10,000 people looking for a new home among the stars. The ship vanished 6 months into the journey. No distress call, no wreckage, nothing. It became a ghost story that parents told their children. "Are you sure?" Taiwan asked. "The signal matches the ship's identification code perfectly," Wu Jin replied. "We're 2 hours away." Dr. Hae-young looked up from her research station. She was a specialist in old languages and alien artifacts, though humanity had never found any aliens to study. At 32, she was the youngest person ever to earn 3 degrees in xenoarchaeology. If that's really the eternal rest, we need to be careful. No one knows what happened to that ship. "We're always careful," said Ji-hai, checking her medical kit. She was Taiwan's second in command and had served with him for 15 years. They had pulled apart 100 dead ships together, looking for salvage to sell back to the colonies. But we're also not turning back from the biggest find in history. 2 hours later, they saw it. The eternal rest hung in space like a sleeping giant. The ship was massive, bigger than anything humans built anymore. Its hull was dark and cold, but intact. No holes, no damage. It looked like it could start up and fly away at any moment. "Life support is dead," Wu Jin reported. "But the hull is sealed. Internal atmosphere is still holding." "That's impossible," Taiwan said. "After 300 years, the seal should have failed." "Impossible or not, that's what the sensors say," Wu Jin replied. They docked with the eternal rest and suited up. Even though the atmosphere was holding, no one wanted to take chances. The airlock opened with a hiss, and they stepped into history. The inside of the ship was dark, except for their lights. Frost covered the walls, and their breath made clouds in the cold air. They walked through corridors where families once lived, where children once played. Now there was only silence. "Look at this," Hae-young said, stopping at a wall panel. She wiped away the frost, revealing a family photo. A man and woman smiled at the camera, holding a small child. They never made it to their new home. "Where are the bodies?" Ji-hai asked. "There should be 10,000 people on this ship." It was a good question. They searched for an hour, going through living quarters and work areas. They found belongings. They found photos and toys and books. But they found no bodies. "This doesn't make sense," Taiwan said. "People don't just disappear." "Captain, you need to see this," Wu Jin called from ahead. "I found something in the center of the ship." They followed him to the main cargo bay. The doors were sealed with heavy locks, the kind used for dangerous materials. Wu Jin had already opened them using his tools. Inside, the cargo bay was different from the rest of the ship. It was warm. Lights glowed softly along the walls, powered by some source that still worked after 3 centuries. In the center of the bay stood something that made them all stop and stare. It was a coffin, but unlike any coffin they had ever seen. The container was made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Inside, they could see a woman floating in some kind of liquid. She looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. Her uniform identified her as Commander Yuna, the captain of the Eternal Rest. But that wasn't the strangest part. Wrapped around the coffin was a creature. At first, Taewon thought it was a machine, some kind of advanced robot. But as he looked closer, he realized it was alive. The creature was shaped like a snake, but enormous. Its body was as thick as a tree trunk and covered in scales that looked like metal. Patterns of light ran along its body, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. The creature's head rested on top of the coffin, its eyes closed. "What is that thing?" Ji-hai whispered. "It's beautiful," Hae-young said, stepping closer. "Look at the way it's positioned. It's protecting her. How is it still alive?" Woo-jin asked. "Nothing could survive 300 years without food or water." Taewon walked around the coffin slowly, studying the creature from every angle. "Scan it. I want to know everything about this thing. What it's made of, where it came from, everything." Woo-jin set up his equipment and started scanning. The results made no sense. "Captain, this creature's energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. The technology in that coffin is also unknown. It's more advanced than anything we have now." "That's impossible," Taewon said. 300 years ago, humans barely had working fusion drives. How could they build something like this? Hae-young was looking at a computer terminal near the coffin. The screen was still active, showing files that were 3 centuries old. "I found ship logs. Captain Yuna made recordings before going into that coffin. Let me play the last one." The screen flickered and a woman's face appeared. She looked tired and scared. "This is Commander Yuna. Final log entry. We encountered something at the edge of the solar system. An ancient structure, not human. Not anything we've ever seen before. Inside, we found this creature. It wouldn't communicate with anyone except me. I don't know how, but I understood it. It showed me things. Visions of civilizations rising and falling. Galaxies being born. It's old. So old that it remembers when stars were young." Yuna paused, looking off-screen. "A plague hit the ship 2 months ago. We tried everything, but people kept dying. The creature said it could save me, but only me. It built this coffin using technology I don't understand. It says it will wait. Wait for humanity to be ready. I don't know what that means. If anyone finds this, please take care of it. This creature chose humanity for something. Something important." The recording ended. The 4 of them stood in silence, trying to process what they had just heard. "Humanity's first contact with aliens," Hae-young said quietly. "And we never knew." "We need to report this," Ji-hai said. "This changes everything." But before Taewon could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Woo-jin ran to his portable scanner. "Captain, we have ships dropping out of hyperspace. Multiple signatures. They're not human. How many?" Taewon demanded. 15. No, 20. "They're big, Captain. Warships." Woo-jin's face went pale. "They're Dominion ships." Everyone knew about the Dominion. For 50 years, they had been destroying human colonies, burning worlds, and killing everyone they found. No one knew why. No one knew how to stop them. They just kept coming. "How did they find us?" Ji-hai asked. "Our scans must have triggered something," Hae-young said. She pointed at the creature. "They're here for this. For the dragon." As if responding to her words, one of the creature's eyes opened. It glowed with soft golden light. The patterns along its body began pulsing faster. After 300 years of sleep, the dragon was waking up, and outside, death was coming for them all. The dragon's eyes stared at them, golden and ancient. Taewon had seen many things in his years of salvage work, but nothing had ever made him feel so small. The creature didn't move except for the slow pulse of light along its scales. It was watching them, judging them. "We need to leave." "Now," Ji-hai said, already moving toward the door. "Wait," Young called out. She was still at the computer terminal, reading through the files as fast as she could. "There's more here. Information about the coffin. About how it works." "We don't have time," Taewon said. "The Dominion will be here in less than 2 days. Then we need to make a choice," Young replied. She turned to face them, her expression serious. "We can run and let them destroy this ship and everything on it. Or we can try to wake Commander Yuna. She's the only one who can communicate with the dragon." Woo Jin was pacing back and forth, his hands shaking. "How do we even know the dragon is good? Maybe the Dominion wants to destroy it for a reason. Maybe it's dangerous. If it was dangerous, we'd already be dead," Young said. "Read the logs." Commander Yuna trusted it. It saved her life and waited 300 years for someone to find them. That's not the behavior of something evil. "It's not our decision to make," Ji-hai said. "We're salvage workers, not heroes. We should report this and let the military handle it." Taewon knew she was right. The smart choice was to run. But something held him back. Maybe it was the way the dragon looked at them. Maybe it was the thought of humanity's first contact with aliens being destroyed by their worst enemy. Or maybe he was just tired of running. "How do we wake her?" he asked. Young pulled up the schematics on the screen. "The coffin is a stasis device. It keeps her alive by suspending her between life and death. To release her, another human needs to take her place. The machine requires a genetic exchange. Someone goes in, she comes out." "That's a death sentence," Ji-hai said. "Not exactly," Young replied. "The person who goes in enters stasis, just like Yuna. They'd be frozen in time, alive but not living. They could potentially be woken up later if we figure out how. Or they could sleep forever," Taewon said. "Yes," Young admitted. "That's possible." They stood in silence, each of them thinking about what that meant. To give up everything. To trust in technology they didn't understand. To sacrifice yourself for people you'd never meet. "I'll do it," Ji-hai said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "No," Taewon said immediately. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way," Ji-hai replied. She walked over to stand in front of him, her eyes steady. "And you know why it has to be me." Taewon did know. He had known for months but hadn't wanted to face it. Ji-hai was sick. She had cellular degradation syndrome, the same plague that killed everyone on the Eternal Rest. The disease broke down a person's cells slowly, painfully. She had maybe 6 months left to live. "We can still find a cure," Taewon said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We both know there is no cure," Ji-hai said gently. She put her hand on his shoulder. "Let me do this. Let my death mean something." "This isn't fair," Taewon said, and he hated how weak he sounded. "Nothing about life is fair," Ji-hai replied. "But sometimes we get to choose how we face the end. I'm choosing this." Woo Jin spoke up, his voice trembling. "There's something else you should know. I ran a genetic scan on myself and cross-referenced it with the crew database. My great-great-grandmother was on this ship. She was the navigator. I'm descended from the Eternal Rest." He looked at the coffin, then at the computer showing thousands of names. All these people died. My ancestor died. If I can help finish their mission, even in a small way, I want to try. Young nodded slowly. Then we're all agreed. We wake Commander Yuna and hope she can help us. They spent the next hour preparing. Young studied the coffin's controls, making sure she understood how to operate it. Woo Jin set up sensors to monitor both Ji-hai and Yuna during the transfer. Taewon just stood there, watching his oldest friend prepare to die. "You don't have to do this," he said one last time. "Yes, I do," Ji-hai replied. She had changed into a simple white suit, similar to what Yuna wore. "Someone has to. And I'm the logical choice. Stop trying to protect me. You've been doing that for 15 years. Let me protect you for once. She hugged him tight. Take care of them. Take care of yourself. And if this works, if Yuna can somehow save humanity, tell her that it was worth it. Then she stepped away and walked to the coffin. The dragon's eye followed her movement, but it didn't interfere. Young activated the controls, and the crystal began to open. The liquid inside drained away, and Yuna's body lowered to a platform. Ji climbed into the coffin, lying down where Yuna had been. It's cold, she said, trying to smile. Really cold. Are you sure? Young asked, her finger hovering over the activation button. Do it, Ji said. Do it now before I lose my courage. Young pressed the button. The liquid began filling the coffin again, rising around Ji-Hi's body. She closed her eyes, and her breathing slowed. The crystal sealed shut, and frost formed on its surface. Inside, Ji-Hi floated peacefully, already lost to the world. At the same moment, Yuna's eyes opened. She gasped, sucking in air like she'd been drowning. Her body spasmed as 300 years of sleep fell away. Wu Jin rushed forward to catch her as she fell from the platform. Where am I? Yuna asked, her voice rough from centuries of disuse. You're on the eternal rest, Young said. You've been asleep for 300 years. Yuna's eyes went wide. She looked around the cargo bay, at the equipment that was ancient to her, but modern to them. She looked at the dragon, still coiled around the coffin. Bahamut, she whispered. You kept your promise. The dragon's other eye opened. Both golden eyes fixed on Yuna, and for a moment, something passed between them. Understanding, recognition, love. Who are you? Yuna asked, looking at Tae-Won and his crew. We're salvage workers from New Seoul Colony, Tae-Won explained. We found your ship, but we don't have time for long explanations. The Dominion is coming. They'll be here in less than 40 hours. We need your help. The Dominion? Yuna looked confused. I don't know that name. They're an alien empire, Young said. They've been attacking human colonies for 50 years. When we scanned your ship, they detected it somehow. They're coming to destroy the dragon. Yuna stood up slowly, still weak from her long sleep. She walked to the dragon and placed her hand on its scales. The creature's body thrummed with energy, the light patterns flowing faster. They're not coming to destroy Bahamut, Yuna said quietly. They're coming to destroy humanity's chance at survival. The Dominion knows what Bahamut really is, and they're terrified of it. What is it? Wu Jin asked. Yuna turned to face them, and in her eyes they saw knowledge that spanned civilizations. Bahamut is a guardian. The progenitors, the first civilization to travel the stars, created the guardians millions of years ago. Their job is to protect young species during their early development, to help them grow until they're ready to join the galactic community. Why would the Dominion fear that? Tae-Won asked. Because the Dominion had their own guardian once, Yuna replied. And they killed it. They chose power over wisdom, conquest over cooperation. The progenitors' programming marked them as a failed species. Now the Dominion hunts other guardians, trying to prevent any other species from achieving what they lost. She looked at the coffin where Ji-Hi now slept. Who is she? The woman who took my place? Her name is Ji-Hi, Tae-Won said, his voice thick with emotion. She was my second in command, my friend. She was dying, so she volunteered. She won't die, Yuna said firmly. The coffin doesn't just preserve. It heals. If there's any way to save her, Bahamut's technology will find it. But first, we need to save everyone else. The dragon lifted its head, and for the first time, it moved. Slowly, carefully, it uncoiled from the coffin. Its body stretched and flowed like water, growing larger until it filled half the cargo bay. When it spoke, the voice came not from its mouth, but from everywhere at once, resonating in their bones. "The test begins," Bahamut said. "Humanity must choose what it will become." Bahamut's voice filled the cargo bay like music and thunder mixed together. Taewon felt it in his chest, in his head, in places he didn't have words for. The dragon was fully awake now, its massive body moving with impossible grace. The metal scales caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns across the walls. What kind of test? Tae-young asked. She was the first to find her voice, the dragon's golden eyes fixed on her. "The same test every species faces. Will you choose power or wisdom? Will you fight with hatred or with understanding? Your choice will determine if humanity is ready for what comes next." "We don't have time for philosophy," Taewon said, frustration making his voice sharp. "The Dominion will be here in a day and a half. They have 20 warships. We have one salvage ship and a cargo vessel that's 300 years old. Unless you can fight them off, we're all dead." "I can fight them," Bahamut replied calmly. "I can destroy their entire fleet with a thought. But if I do, humanity will learn nothing. You will come to depend on my power instead of developing your own wisdom. You will become like the Dominion, believing that strength is all that matters." Yuna stepped forward, placing her hand on the dragon's side. "Bahamut is a teacher, not a weapon. The progenitors didn't create the guardians to fight wars. They created them to guide species toward enlightenment. Enlightenment won't stop plasma cannons." Taewon said bitterly. Woojin had been silent, listening to everything. Now he spoke up. "Captain, I found something while you were talking. The ship's central computer has files we missed. Records from before the plague hit. Can I show you?" "Make it quick," Taewon said. Woojin pulled up data on the terminal. The Eternal Rest wasn't just a colony ship. It was carrying something else. Something the crew called the memory crystals. "Look at this." The screen showed schematics of the ship's core. Hidden in a shielded vault were thousands of crystal storage devices, each one containing massive amounts of data. "What's stored on them?" Young asked, moving closer to read the information. "Everything," Woojin said, his voice filled with awe. "The complete cultural heritage of Earth. Music, art, literature, philosophy, scientific theories, historical records. The crew was supposed to share it with whatever new civilizations they found. They wanted to show other species who humanity really was. Earth's cultural legacy," Young breathed. "This is priceless. This is more valuable than any amount of money or resources." Yuna smiled sadly. That was the plan. We were going to be ambassadors, not just colonists. We wanted to prove that humanity had something to offer the universe beyond violence and greed. An idea formed in Taewon's mind. It was crazy, probably suicidal, but it might be their only chance. Can we access those crystals? Can we broadcast their contents? The system is old but functional, Woojin said. I can set it up. Why? Because maybe that's the test, Taewon said, looking at Bahamut. Maybe we don't fight the Dominion with weapons. Maybe we show them who we are. Let them see our culture, our history, our potential. Let them decide if we're worth destroying. Bahamut's eyes glowed brighter. The dragon lowered its massive head until it was level with Taewon. You understand. Finally, a human who sees the path. It won't work, Young said, though she didn't sound convinced. The Dominion has been killing humans for 50 years. Why would they care about our music or poetry? Because maybe they've never seen it before, Yuna said. Maybe they only know humans as enemies, as threats to be eliminated. What if we show them something different? We'd be gambling with billions of lives, Taewon said. If this doesn't work, if the Dominion destroys us anyway, humanity loses its guardian. Other colonies won't have Bahamut's protection. And if we use Bahamut as a weapon, humanity loses something more important, Yuna replied. We lose the chance to be better. To prove we're not like the Dominion. Tai-1 looked at his crew. Young was nodding slowly, beginning to believe. Wu Jin looked terrified but determined. He thought about Ji-hai, sleeping in the coffin, her sacrifice made so that they could have this chance. All right, he said. We try it your way. Wu Jin, start extracting the data from those crystals. Young, help him set up a broadcast system. We'll transmit on every frequency the Dominion might be listening to. What about our ship? Young asked. Should we move it away from the eternal rest? If the Dominion attacks, we don't want to be caught in the crossfire. Ta-1 shook his head. No, we stay right here. We stand with Yuna and Bahamut. If this is going to work, we need to show the Dominion that we believe in this choice completely. The next 30 hours were the longest of Tai-1's life. Wu Jin and Young worked without sleep, pulling data from the ancient crystals and preparing it for broadcast. Yuna helped where she could, though she was still weak from her long sleep. She told them stories about the old Earth, about the world that existed 300 years ago. It seemed both familiar and impossibly distant. Bahamut remained in the cargo bay, its presence a constant reminder of what was at stake. Sometimes the dragon would speak, sharing visions of other worlds, other species that had faced similar tests. Some had passed. Many had failed. What happens to the ones who fail? Tai-1 asked during one of these conversations. They continued to exist, Bahamut replied. But they never reached their full potential. They stay trapped in cycles of violence and fear, never understanding what they could have become. The Dominion is the saddest example. They could have been magnificent. Instead, they chose to be conquerors. Do you think we're making the right choice? Tai-1 asked. I think you're making a brave choice, Bahamut said. Whether it's right or wrong will depend on how the Dominion responds, and how you respond to them. When the Dominion fleet arrived, it was like watching death approach in slow motion. 20 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. They formed a sphere around the eternal rest, blocking any escape. A transmission came through audio only. The voice was harsh and mechanical, filtered through translation software. Humans, you have discovered something that does not belong to you. Surrender the guardian creature, and we will allow you to leave. Refuse, and we will destroy you all. Tai-1 took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's future. He opened the channel, knowing his words were being recorded, knowing they might be the last thing he ever said. My name is Captain Tai-1 of the salvage ship New Soul. We will not surrender the Guardian. But we want to show you something. We want you to understand who we are. We know what you are, the voice replied. You are prey. You are insects waiting to be crushed. Then crush us, Tai-1 said. But first, listen. Please, just listen. He signaled to Wu Jin, who activated the broadcast. The memory crystals began transmitting their contents across every frequency, sending 300 years of human culture into space. They sent music. Symphonies and folk songs, rock and classical, music from every culture Earth had ever known. They sent art, paintings and sculptures, photographs and digital creations. They sent literature, poetry and novels, plays and essays, words that captured human joy and sorrow and hope and despair. They sent science, the theories and discoveries that let humanity understand the universe. They sent philosophy, the questions humans had asked about existence, meaning, and morality. They sent history, the wars and peace treaties, the rises and falls of civilizations, the mistakes and triumphs. Most importantly, they sent the truth. They didn't hide humanity's flaws. They showed the violence and hatred, the slavery and genocide, the terrible things humans had done to each other. But they also showed how humans learned, how they grew, how they kept trying to be better. For 2 hours, the broadcast continued. The Dominion fleet remained silent, weapons charged but not firing. Tae-1 didn't know if they were listening or just waiting for the transmission to end before they attacked. Then something unexpected happened. 3 ships in the Dominion fleet powered down their weapons. Just 3 out of 20. But it was enough to show that someone had been listening. Someone had been moved. The main Dominion commander's voice came back, and this time it sounded different. Angry. Frightened. Traitors! You dare to show weakness in the face of the enemy? The 3 ships didn't respond. They just sat there, weapons offline, making no move to attack or defend. If you will not fight, you will die, the commander said, Don. And then the Dominion fleet opened fire. Not on the Eternal Rest, on their own ships. On the 3 vessels that had chosen to listen. Tae-1 watched in horror as plasma beams tore through the 3 ships, ripping them apart. Thousands of Dominion soldiers died because they had shown a moment of compassion. No, Hae-young whispered. This isn't what we wanted. But Bahamut was moving. The dragon unfurled its wings, massive structures that seemed to be made of light and metal woven together. The wings spread wide, creating a shield that caught the weapon's fire. The 3 damaged Dominion ships were pulled backward by some invisible force, moved behind the protection of Bahamut's barrier. You have chosen, Bahamut said, its voice reaching every ship in the fleet. And I have seen your choice. The Dominion commander's rage was obvious even through the translation. You dare protect traitors. You dare interfere with Dominion justice. Justice, Bahamut repeated, the word resonating through space. You speak of justice while murdering your own people for showing mercy. This is not justice. This is fear. The dragon's body grew brighter, light pulsing through its scales like liquid fire. Tae-1 had to shield his eyes. When he could look again, Bahamut had changed. The creature was no longer just wrapped around the coffin. It was everywhere. Its form expanded into something vast and beautiful and terrifying. I am a guardian of the progenitors, Bahamut declared. I was placed in this universe to guide young species toward wisdom. I have watched over humanity since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. And now I judge them. Judge them? The Dominion commander laughed, a harsh sound. You judge them worthy? These creatures who fight among themselves, who poison their own world, who reach for the stars with bloody hands. Yes, Bahamut said simply, because they are also capable of music and art and love, because they sacrifice for strangers, because they try, constantly and endlessly, to be better than they were. Humanity is not perfect, but they are learning. They are growing. In the cargo bay, Eunice stood beside the coffin where Ji-hai slept. She placed her hand on the crystal, and something strange happened. The light patterns on Bahamut's scales began to flow into the coffin, surrounding Ji-hai's sleeping form. What's happening? Hey, Young asked. Bahamut is making a choice, Eunice said. The Guardian can only fully awaken if humanity proves itself worthy. That proof just happened. 3 Dominion soldiers chose compassion over orders, and we chose truth over deception. Tae-1 felt something change in the air. It was like the moment before lightning strikes, when every hair on your body stands up. Energy crackled through the Eternal Rest, through his salvage ship, through the space around them. I judge humanity worthy, Bahamut announced, and I grant them my gift. The dragon's wings spread wider, becoming a web of light that reached across space. The light touched the Dominion fleet, touched the 3 damaged ships, touched every human colony within 100 light years. And when it touched, it changed things. T-1 gasped as knowledge flooded into his mind. Not specific facts or information, but understanding. He suddenly grasped concepts that had always confused him. He felt connected to his crew in ways he never had before. He could sense their emotions, their thoughts, not perfectly, but enough to know what they were feeling. "What did you do to us?" he asked, wonder and fear mixing in his voice. "I awakened the potential that already existed in your DNA," Bahamut said. "The progenitors planted it there millions of years ago, in thousands of species across the galaxy. Most never activated. But those who passed the test received this gift. Enhanced empathy, deeper understanding, the ability to see the connections between all living things." Hang was crying, tears streaming down her face. "I can feel everyone, every human. We're all linked. Not mind reading, but something else. Something beautiful." Wu Jin laughed, the sound filled with joy. "This is what we were always meant to be. This is what the progenitors wanted us to become." But in the Dominion fleet, the reaction was different. On the 3 damaged ships, the soldiers were experiencing the same transformation. 3,000 Dominion warriors suddenly felt empathy for the first time in their lives. They understood what their empire had done. They felt the weight of every life they had taken. Some of them collapsed under the guilt. Others wept. But many of them stood up straighter, their eyes clear for the first time. They had been freed from something, from a darkness they hadn't known was there. The main Dominion commander watched all of this from his flagship. His name was Ralvek, and he had served the Dominion for 40 years. He had burned 100 worlds and killed millions. And now he understood what he was witnessing. Humanity was evolving. With the Guardian's protection and this new gift, they would become something his empire could never defeat. Not with weapons. Not with numbers. Because once a species developed true empathy and connection, they became able to unite others. They became able to build alliances. They became dangerous in ways the Dominion couldn't fight. Ralvek made his decision quickly. He had been a soldier his entire life. He knew when a battle was lost. But he also knew how to deny the enemy their victory. "All ships," he commanded. "Retreat to minimum safe distance." His officers looked confused. "Commander, we have 17 ships to their 3. We can still win." "We're not retreating to survive," Ralvek said coldly. "We're retreating so the blast doesn't damage our other ships. I'm going to ram the Guardian. I'm going to detonate our antimatter core at point-blank range. Nothing can survive that. Not the Guardian. Not the humans. Not their precious gift. That's suicide," his second officer said. "That's duty," Ralvek replied. "The Dominion cannot allow humanity to complete this evolution. Better to die stopping it than live to see our empire fall." On the eternal rest, Bahamut's eyes suddenly went wide. "No, he's going to destroy everything." "Who?" T-1 demanded. "The Dominion commander. He's accelerating toward us. He'll be here in 3 minutes." Yuna ran to the controls of the eternal rest. "We need to evacuate. Get everyone off this ship now." "There's not enough time," Hayoung said, checking the numbers. "His ship is too fast. We'd never make it." "Then Bahamut needs to stop him," T-1 said. "Use your power. Destroy his ship before it reaches us. If I use that much power in this form, the energy release will destroy every ship in the area, including the 3 Dominion vessels I saved," Bahamut said. "Including your colonies. The blast radius will be enormous." "So we're dead either way," Wu Jin said quietly. "Not necessarily," Yuna said. She was looking at the coffin again, at Jihai sleeping inside. "Bahamut, can the coffin handle more than one person?" "No," the dragon replied. It was designed for a single occupant. But what if two people shared the connection? What if two humans linked through the coffin could channel your power more precisely? Bahamut's eyes gleamed. In theory, yes, but I've never tried it. The energy required would be immense. It might kill both of you. I'm already dying, Yuna said. She started removing her jacket, preparing to enter the coffin alongside Jihai. And Jihai volunteered to sacrifice herself. Let me honor that sacrifice by completing it. Wait, Tawan said. There has to be another way. There isn't, Yuna said firmly. She looked at him with sad but determined eyes. I've been alive for 300 years. I've seen humanity at its worst and its best. If I can save what we might become, then my life means something. Please, don't take this away from me. She climbed into the coffin before anyone could stop her. The crystal opened, and she lay down beside Jihai's floating form. The liquid rose around both of them. Bahamut, Yuna said as the liquid reached her neck. Show me how to help you. Close your eyes, the dragon said gently. Trust me. Trust her. And trust yourself. The liquid covered Yuna's face. The crystal sealed. And inside the coffin, something miraculous began to happen. The two women, separated by 3 centuries, but connected by sacrifice, began to glow. Their forms blurred together, becoming something more than 2 individuals. They became a bridge, a channel through which power could flow. Bahamut's entire body lit up like a star. The dragon's consciousness merged with the 2 women in the coffin, creating a connection that had never existed before. 3 minds working as one, amplifying each other's strengths. Ralvek's ship was 2 minutes away. Tae-1 could see it on the sensors, accelerating at impossible speeds. The antimatter core was already destabilizing, building up energy for the massive explosion that would destroy them all. Hold on, Bahamut said, speaking with Yuna's voice and Jihai's voice and its own voice all at once. This is going to be intense. The dragon's power exploded outward, but it wasn't destruction. It was transformation. The energy wrapped around Ralvek's ship like invisible hands, catching it, holding it. The antimatter core reached critical mass and detonated, but the explosion didn't destroy anything. Instead, the energy was converted, transformed by Bahamut's power into something else entirely. The blast wave spread outward, washing over the Dominion fleet, over the Eternal Rest, over Tae-1's salvage ship, and everywhere the wave touched, weapons turned into something peaceful. Cannons became communications arrays. Missiles became medical supplies. Armor became art. The Dominion's tools of war were transformed into tools of peace. More importantly, the wave carried the same gift that humanity had received. Every Dominion soldier in the fleet suddenly experienced empathy. They felt the pain they had caused. They understood what they had become. For Ralvek, the transformation was overwhelming. He had killed so many. He had destroyed so much. The weight of it crushed him, and he fell to his knees, sobbing like a child in space. The Eternal Rest continued to glow. Inside the coffin, Yuna and Jihai held each other, their sacrifice complete. The silence after the transformation was deep and strange. Tae-1 stood in the cargo bay, staring at the coffin where 2 women now slept. The crystal glowed brighter than before, with both blue and golden lights swirling together. Yuna and Jihai floated side by side, their faces peaceful. Are they alive? He asked Bahamut. Yes, the dragon replied. Its form had shrunk back to its original size, coiled protectively around the coffin once more. They're healing. The coffin is repairing Jihai's cellular damage, and Yuna is integrating 3 centuries of human development into her mind. When they wake, they will both be changed, better, stronger. When will they wake? Tae-1 pressed. Days, weeks, perhaps months. The healing takes as long as it needs to take. Bahamut's golden eyes fixed on him. But they will wake. I promise you that. He Young was at the communication console, monitoring the Dominion fleet. Captain, we're receiving transmissions from multiple Dominion ships. They're asking for permission to dock. They want to talk. Tae-Won's first instinct was to refuse. The Dominion had been humanity's enemy for 50 years. They had burned colonies and killed millions. How could he trust them now? But then he remembered the gift that Bahamut had given him. He could feel the emotions of the Dominion soldiers. He could sense their genuine confusion, their horror at what they had done, their desperate desire to make things right. They weren't pretending. The transformation was real. Let them come, he said. But keep weapons ready, just in case. The first Dominion soldier to board the Eternal Rest was a young officer named Kolseth. He entered the cargo bay with his hands raised, showing he carried no weapons. His face was wet with tears. I killed humans, he said, his voice breaking. On the colony world of New Terra, I was part of the bombardment team. We burned the cities. I heard people screaming, and I felt nothing. I thought they were just targets. He fell to his knees. Now I can feel it. Every death. Every child who died because of my orders. I can't sleep. I can't eat. The pain is too much. Please, please tell me how to make it stop. Tae-Won wanted to hate this soldier, wanted to make him suffer. But the gift Bahamut had given him let him feel Kolseth as genuine anguish. This wasn't an act. This was a man confronting the monster he had been. I don't know, Tae-Won said honestly. I don't know how you live with that kind of guilt. Then I'll spend my life trying to fix it, Kolseth said. All of us will. The entire fleet. We want to help rebuild what we destroyed. We want to protect instead of harm. Please, give us the chance. Over the next few days, more Dominion soldiers came. They all told similar stories. They had been raised in a culture that valued only strength and conquest. They had been taught that empathy was weakness, that mercy was foolishness. The transformation had shattered their entire worldview, but not all of them accepted it. Some Dominion soldiers, perhaps 20% of the fleet, couldn't handle the change. They shut down emotionally, refusing to feel, refusing to acknowledge what they had done. These soldiers retreated to the remaining Dominion ships that hadn't been transformed, and they fled into deep space. The ones who stayed, about 15,000 soldiers, formed the core of something new. They met with representatives from human colonies. They shared their military knowledge, their technology, their resources. In exchange, humans taught them about art, about philosophy, about all the things the Dominion culture had abandoned centuries ago. Commander Ralvek stayed as well. He was a broken man, destroyed by the weight of what he had done. But he was also determined to spend his remaining years making amends. He contacted every human colony, every family that had lost someone to Dominion attacks. He told them the truth about what happened. He answered their questions. He accepted their anger and their grief. I can never fix what I broke, he told Tae-Won one day. They were standing in the observation deck, watching as human and Dominion engineers worked together to repair the damaged ships. I can never bring back the dead, but I can make sure their deaths weren't meaningless. I can make sure humanity survives and thrives. Why are you really doing this? Tae-Won asked. Is it just guilt? Partly, Ralvek admitted. But also because I finally understand what we lost. The Dominion killed our guardian 400 years ago. We thought we were freeing ourselves from weakness. Instead, we trapped ourselves in an endless cycle of violence. When I look at humans now, when I see what you're becoming, I see what we could have been. And it breaks my heart. 3 months passed. The Eternal Rest became a gathering place, a neutral ground where humans and reformed Dominion soldiers could meet and plan. They formed the Coalition of Free Peoples, an alliance dedicated to protecting developing species and opposing tyranny. Wujin took charge of studying the technology in the ship. He discovered that the memory crystals contained not just human culture, but also fragments of progenitor knowledge. Ancient sciences, lost philosophies, blueprints for technologies humanity hadn't even dreamed of. He-Young worked with Dominion historians to document everything that had happened. She wanted future generations to understand the price of hatred and the power of transformation. Her writings would eventually become required reading in schools across dozens of worlds. Taiwan visited the cargo bay every day. He would sit beside the coffin, talking to Jihai and Yuna, even though they couldn't hear him. He told them about the coalition, about the changes happening across known space, about the hope that was growing where there had only been despair. "You did this," he would say. "Both of you. Your sacrifice changed everything." Bahamut would listen from its coiled position around the coffin. Sometimes the dragon would share visions with Taewon, showing him possible futures. Some were bright, showing humanity spreading across the stars, sharing their gift with other species. Some were dark, showing the failures that could still happen if they weren't careful. "The future isn't written yet," Bahamut would remind him. "Every choice matters. Every action has consequences." On the 100th day after the transformation, something changed. The light in the coffin began pulsing faster. Bahamut lifted its head, suddenly alert. "They're waking," the dragon announced. Taewon rushed to the cargo bay, calling for He-Young and Wujin. The crystal began to open, and the liquid drained away. Two women sat up slowly, breathing deep gasps of air. Yuna looked around the cargo bay, her eyes taking in all the changes. She saw Dominion and human engineers working side by side. She saw the hope on everyone's faces. She smiled. Jihai looked at Taewon, and in her eyes he saw understanding. She knew what had happened. She knew what they had accomplished. "Did it work?" she asked, her voice rough from months of sleep. "It worked," Taewon said, helping her out of the coffin. "You saved us all. Both of you." Over the next weeks, Yuna and Jihai recovered their strength. They found they were linked now in ways they couldn't fully explain. They could sense each other's thoughts and emotions, even when separated by great distances. And they could still connect with Bahamut, channeling the dragon's power when needed. The cellular degradation syndrome that had been killing Jihai was completely gone. The coffin had rewritten her DNA, making her immune. Yuna, who had been displaced by 3 centuries, found new purpose in helping guide humanity through its transformation. Together, they became ambassadors. They traveled to other sectors of space, searching for species that might have their own guardians. Some of these species were primitive, just beginning to develop technology. Others were advanced, but trapped in cycles of violence like the Dominion had been. Wherever they went, Yuna and Jihai shared the story of humanity's choice. They showed that empathy was strength, that sacrifice could lead to miracles, that even enemies could become allies if they were willing to change. Taewon eventually returned to New Seoul Colony, but his salvage days were over. He founded an organization dedicated to recovering lost colony ships and preserving human history. He named his first ship Jai's Hope, and he trained young people to continue the work. The eternal rest remained in space, transformed into a living monument. The coalition headquarters was built around it, with Bahamut sleeping peacefully at its center. The dragon rarely woke, but its presence was a constant reminder of what was possible when wisdom triumphed over power. 20 years later, a young girl named Subin visited the monument with her school class. She stood in the cargo bay, staring up at the massive dragon coiled around the empty coffin. The guide explained the history, the sacrifice, the miracle that had changed the galaxy. Subin raised her hand. Will the dragon wake up again? The guide smiled. It was Taewon, now an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. That's a good question. Let me tell you what I learned. He knelt down so he was at the girl's eye level. Bahamut isn't really sleeping. The dragon is waiting. Waiting to see what we become. Every time we choose kindness over cruelty, every time we help someone who needs us, every time we try to understand instead of hate, the dragon sees it. And when humanity truly needs wisdom, when we face challenges we can't overcome alone, Bahamut will wake again. How do we know when we need the dragon? Su Bin asked. We don't need to know, Taewon said, because the dragon will know. That's what guardians do. They watch over us, guide us, protect us when necessary. But mostly, they tay.